Namaste, everyone. Please fasten your seatbelt and immerse yourselves as we explore the rich culture and discover the surviving literary pieces of the most diverse country in the world, India.
Hindu literature includes compositions from West and East. The Hindu literature includes compositions in the Western Bhasa and Karibuli dialects of the Indian subcontinent and the Eastern Awadhi and Bundeli varieties of the Indian subcontinent, along with writings from portions of Rajasthan in the West and Bihar in the East, are not entirely Hindi. It also includes the creation of Muslim writers. The creations of Muslim writers in the Persian script, such as the Yasi, and traditionally included within the Hindi literature because of core is Hindu but it's not Muslim. It also features prominently during the 7th century all the way to 10th century. It features prominently in the 7th century AD and become more consistent in the 10th. Almost all of the earlier works are in Foam and written in a dialect other than Karibuli. The latter, which is the basis for present standard Hindu and Urdu, was not widely employed as a literary language until the late 17th century. The Bra is used as a poetry medium. Bra was used as a poetry medium until the late 19th century when it was supplanted by Karibuli. As a result, the language of contemporary Hindi literature differentiates from that of prior periods. Background of the plays. The Hindu or Indian literature, one of the oldest, the first record emerged for more than 4,000 years ago in India and in the regions of Pakistan. Also known as the Sanskrit literature due to most pieces were written in Sanskrit, an ancient language that is composed of several types of scriptures. The Hindu or Indian literature mostly talks about wisdom, religion, worship, and social norms. Culture and tradition. One of the culture and tradition of India is its religion. The India is known to be the birthplace and origin of some of the world's major religions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and Sikhism. The second one, we have the language. In India, it is considered as a home of the most spoken languages. Out of the 100 languages there are 22 languages considered as an official language in India. First, we have the Dogri, Maithili, Bodo, Urdu, Santali, Telugu, Tamil, Sindhi, Sanskrit, Punjabi, Oriya, Nepali, Marathi, Manipuri, Malayalam, Konkani, Kashmiri, Kannada, Hindi, Gujarati, Bengali, Assamese. And also we have the clothing. Traditional Indian clothing for women in the north and east are saris, that is worn with chuli tops, a long skirt called as lehenga, that is worn with chuli, and as a gagra chuli or salwar kameez suits. The South in Indian women traditionally wear patulanga. The traditional Indian clothing for men, we have ankan, shiwa or shiwani, bangala, lungi, kurta, angarta, jama, shalwar, kameez, and dhuti or kurta pajama. In addition, in Western clothing, they have trousers and shirts have been accepted as a traditional Indian dress for the Indian government. So these are some photos of the traditional clothing for men and women. For women, we have the patulanga, and for men, ankan or shiwani. Now let's go on to their foods. We have different Hindi cuisines. Hindi cuisine, the Indian Cuisine is composed of a variety of regional and traditional cuisines that is already a native to the Indian subcontinent. The Indian food is also influenced by their religion, particularly religions Hinduism and Islam, including cultural choices, traditions, historical events such as colonization, invasions, trade, relations that plays a big role in introducing certain foods of the country. So we have first the Uttar Pradesh cuisine. The Uttar Pradesh cuisine is diverse to its geography, ranging from simple to rich, elaborate banquets. The Uttar Pradesh cuisine has absorbed and adopted a variety of cuisines in order to create an entire smorgasbord of wonderful dishes. Next, we have the Punjabi cuisine. The Punjabi cuisine is consist of a strong-hearted food. It has a rich flavor and a liberal dose of ghee, a clarified butter as well as spices. The Punjab is abundant in milk and therefore milk products are part of their daily diet. Next, we have the Kashmiri cuisine. The Kashmir and Jammu foods differ from region to region. The Hindu Dogras of Jammu are vegetarian and on a stable diet. The Ladakhis eat rice, wheat, millet, and locally produced vegetables and fruits, goat meat, and daily products that is made from yak milk. Next, we have the Gujarati cuisine. The Gujarati cuisine is unlike other Indian cuisine, almost food are vegetarian. The difference of the Gujarati cuisine is that it has unusual blending the sweet with savory into a harmonious whole of the food. The Gujarati cuisine is somewhat influenced by outside food, yet the food has remained pretty much the same. And now let's go on to the Indian sports. We have the cricket. Cricket is by far one of the most loved sports in India, first introduced during the British rule of India. Next, we have Kabaddi, a sport native to the subcontinent of India, one of the most popular disciplines in the country. Next, we have the football or soccer. It is another discipline introduced in India during the British colonial period. And we have badminton. It is currently the second most played sport in India, played either by pair or individual. And we have hockey, national game of India. It has been one of the most popular sports in the country. Festivals and celebrations. We have Dussehra. Witness the triumph of good or evil. Celebrates the death of the demon King Ravana at the hands of Lord Rama, and during the celebration we can see a hustle bustle of the decorated markets, Ramlala acts, and the big event of the burning of effigies of Ravana, Meghnad, and Kumbhakan. It is celebrated every 10th day of the month of Ashin according to the Hindu lunisolar calendar. We also have Navratri. Navratri is the 9 days of fasting, faith, and devotion. It represents the celebration of the goddess Amba or power in 9 different forms. 9 days of dance, festivities in Gujarat, the exquisite Shanayas, Chulis, tradition skirts and blouse, and the Gujarati cuisine, Sabudana, Khidi, Mandi, pork, seguda, kikar, and potato waters. It is celebrated during the first 9 days of the month of Ashin according to the Hindu lunisolar calendar. We also have Diwali. Diwali is the grand festival of lights. It marks the return of the Lord Rama with his wife Sita and brother Lakshmana after the exile of 14 years. And during this celebration, we can see homes were decorated with fancy lights, candles, and clay lamps, bustling shops and markets, fireworks, and crackers. It is celebrated during the darkest moon night of Kartik month of Hindu lunisolar. And also we have Holi, the vibrant festival of colors. It signifies the victory of good Prince Prahlad over evil Holika and the arrival of spring. During this celebration, we can see Holika bonfire playing with colors and Bang Tanday. It is celebrated during the full moon Purnima of the Palgun month of the Hindu lunisolar calendar in almost all over the country. Durga Puja of prosperity, goodness, and devotion. It commemorates Lord Rama's invocation of goddess Durga before going to war with the demon king Ravana. During this celebration, we can see plush pandals, incredibly beautiful 10-armed Durga idols, and puja. It is celebrated during the 10th day of Ashwina Shukla Paksha according to the Hindu lunisolar calendar. India is part of the continent of Asia. Most of India forms a peninsula, which means it is surrounded by water on three sides. The world's highest mountain range, the Himalaya, rises in the north. The southeast is bordered by the Bay of Bengal and the southwest is bordered by the Arabian Sea. Central location in southern part of Asia's continent. India is centrally located between the East and the West Asia. India is strategically located at the center of the Trans-Indian Ocean, routes which connect to the European countries in the West and the countries of East Asia. It is the seventh largest.
Okay, let's proceed to the way of life of Hindu literature. Way of life. The India has a astounding variety of diverse ethnic, linguistic, regional, economic, religious, class, and caste groups resource Indian society. The North and South differs in the kinship and marriage system. The Indian society is multifaceted. It is more region, more diverse than Europe and other nation states. Changes rapidly occur affecting regions and socioeconomic groups. Values. Indian values. Two most important tenets of Indian culture, which is human values and holism. Human values refers to moral, spiritual, and ethical values. Holism pertains to the oneness or unity. Social values, the hierarchy. Social interdependence, purity and pollution, family authority and harmony. Willing and seclusion of women. Life passage. Ethical values that determines right over wrong in various situations. Institutional ethical values like integrity, transparency, accountability, and impartiality. Public welfare and equity. The famous authors and their contribution in Hindu literature. Famous authors and their contributions. Rabindranath Tagore, he was the Bengali polymath who worked as a poet, writer, playwright, composer, philosopher, social reformer, and painter. He reshaped Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art with contextual modernism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Kuswant Singh, an Indian author, lawyer, diplomat, journalist, and politician. His experience in 1947 partition of India inspired him to write Train to Pakistan in 1956, which became his most well-known novel. Jhumpa Lahiri Nilanhana Sodesna or Humpa Lahiri is an American author known for her short stories, novels, essays in English, and more recently in Italian Pulitzer Prize-winning author Humpa Lahiri is celebrated for her depiction of immigrant and Indian American life. Yet her poignant stories also capture universal themes of longing, loneliness, and barriers of communication. She was born in London in 1967 and raised in Rhode Island. Amrita Pritam was an Indian novelist, essayist, and poet who wrote in Punjabi and Hindi. A prominent figure in Punjabi literature, she is the recipient of 1956 Sahitya Akademi Award. Pritam is best remembered for her poignant poem Aj Akan Waris Sa No. Today I invoke Warisat. Ode to Warisa, an elegy to 18th century Punjabi poet, an expression of her anguish over massacres during the partition of India. Sarath Chandra Chattopadhyay. He was a Bengali novelist, and short story writer of the early 20th century. Most of his work deal with lifestyle, tragedy, and struggle of the village people and the contemporary social practices that prevail in Bengal. Sarath Chandra is hailed as one of the greatest novelists in Indian literature to have penned contemporary women. Some of his iconic female characteristics are Paro in Devdas, 1917, Dijavya of Datta, 1917 to 1919, Himanjini of Mejdidi, and Kamala of Shes Prashna in 1929. The prose of Hindu literature. Mahabharata, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India, the other being the Ramayana. It narrates the struggle between two groups of cousins in the Kurukshetra war and the fates of the Kaurava and the Pandava prince and their successors. Panchatantra. The word Panchatantra is combination of the words Pancha, meaning five in Sanskrit, and Tantra, meaning weave. Literary translated, it means interweaving five skins of traditions and teaching into texts. The original text consists of an introduction followed by 5 parts of treatise. Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, often referred to as Gita, is a 700-verse Hindu scripture that is part of the epic. Mahabharata, dated to the second half of the first millennium BCE, and is typical of the Hindu synthesis. It is considered to be one of the holy scriptures for Hinduism. Gitanjali or Gitanjali is a collection of poems by the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. It is part of UNESCO collection of representative works. Its central theme is devotion, and its motto is I am here to sing the song. Kalidasa was a classical Sanskrit author who is often considered ancient India's greatest poet and playwright. His plays and poetry are primarily based on Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas. His surviving works consist of 3 plays, 2 epic poems, and 2 shorter poems.
Good day everyone, this is Mother Ramasada, and in this video we will be discussing one of the most remarkable literary pieces of Hindu literature, the Mahabharata, written by Vedavyasa. So now, what is Mahabharata? Mahabharata is an epic that comprises 100,000 stanzas of verse divided into 18 books or paravas. Mahabharata is the largest single literary work in existence, originally composed in the ancient language of Sanskrit sometime between 400 BC and 400 AD. It is set in a legendary era thought to correspond to the period of Indian culture and history in approximately the 10th century BC. The original author was Vedavyasa, who tried to tell about the Great War between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, cousins who claimed to be the rightful rulers of a kingdom. The poem is all about issues of succession and the lead up to the Kurukshetra war. Now let's have some facts of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata has the honor of being the longest epic in world literature with 100,000 two-line stanzas. It is also 8 times larger than the Iliad and Odyssey combined, also 3 times larger than the Bible. Only about 4,000 lines relate to the main story, and the rest contain the additional myths and teachings. Now let's have the characters. The Mahabharata presents us with a veritable array of human characters, from the sublime to ridiculous. But in this video, we will only be discussing a few of them. Let's start with Vyasa. As depicted in the story, Vyasa is the narrator of the entirety of the Mahabharata epic, dictating the tale to Ganesha. Second, we have Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is the eldest of the Pandava brothers and a leader as both king and the commander in battle. A bad series of dice games he plays lands him, his wife, and his brothers in exile for 13 years, which precipitates a war between the Pandavas and the Duryodhana. Yudhishthira is described as living fully by Dharna, and in turn always has the gods in his side. And we have Arjuna. One of the Pandavas' brothers, Arjuna is dubbed the wealth winner. He is the greatest warrior of all the brothers, having been trained by his future military opponent, Drona. Arjuna is a skilled archer and popular with women. Next up, we have Dhritarashtra. He is a blind king of Hastinapur who believes his blindness is a curse upon him. He gives birth to 100 sons who are demons incarnate. The most powerful of these sons is Duryodhana, who leads the 100 brothers into war against the Pandavas. Next up, we have Duryodhana. Duryodhana is the leader of the 100 demon brothers who are all born of the blind king Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana is portrayed as living in flagrant violation of dharma. He is motivated by greed, jealousy, and the desire of retribution, tricking Yudhishthira in a dice game that ultimately robs the Pandavas of their kingdom and gladly engaging them in war when they return from exile and seek what is rightfully theirs. Lastly, we have Drona. Drona is the Kuru's martial teacher. At the time of the story, Drona is an 85-year-old man who fights like a 16-year-old. Even though he fights on behalf of Duryodhana, he shares a close bond with the Pandavas, having trained Arjuna as a warrior. Now we have the Mahabharata family tree. Later in this video, you're going to find out the roots of the Mahabharata and how does this family split into two, which we have now the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Later on, you will also discuss and discover what led to the Kurukshetra war. So, stay tuned. Okay, so let's get on to the story. The story is set in the kingdom of Kurukshetra, which was one of the many independent kingdoms that existed in North India during the Vedic period. The story starts with a king of the Kuru kingdom named Shantanu. One day, King Shantanu met a beautiful woman on the banks of Ganges River. He didn't know it at the time, but she was actually the goddess Ganga. They married and had a child named Devavatra, who was later known as Bhishma. However, many years later, King Shantanu fell in love with another woman named Satyavati. The king wanted to marry Satyavati, but her father would not allow it unless Shantanu agreed that he would pass his throne on to a son from his new marriage instead of his son from his first marriage. Shantanu felt he could not agree to this and therefore became very sad. However, Bhishma came to learn of this situation and offered to give up his right to the throne in order to please his father, and even took a vow of celibacy to show his seriousness. So, Shantanu married Satyavati and had two sons. The eldest, Chitragada, became the next king. However, he died young without any children. So his younger brother, Vichitravirya, became the third king on this tree. But as fate would have it, he died childless as well. The queen mother Satyavati, who was still alive at the time, came up with a plan. There was an ancient Hindu custom called Niyaga, in which a highly revered man could serve as surrogate father in cases where a man wasn't able to have children. Satyavati had a son from previous marriage named Vyasa. Vyasa agreed to sleep with the king's two widows named Ambika and Ambalika in order to provide his half-brother Vichitravirya with heirs. Two sons were therefore produced, the eldest Dhritarashtra, who was blind, and Pandu. According to tradition, Vyasa is the one who composed the entire epic poem and dictated it to the god Ganesha, who wrote it down. So Vyasa is both the author of the story as well as a character within it. The royal family splits into two. The sons of Dhritarashtra are called the Kauravas, and the sons of Pandu are called the Pandavas. And it is these two sets of first cousins, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, who are the two sides in the Kurukshetra war. You might be wondering, how was the conflict started? Dhritarashtra and Pandu actually had a half-brother named Vidura, who became sort of the prime minister of the kingdom. Vidura suggested that Pandu ought to become the king, being that Dhritarashtra conceded. So Pandu became the fourth king of the kingdom. But then a strange event occurred. There was a rishi or a wise man who had turned both himself and his wife into deer so that they could have sex in that form. King Pandu, not knowing the truth, shot them with his bow and arrow. Before dying, the wise man put a curse on Pandu so that if Pandu were to ever have sex, he would immediately die. Because of this, Pandu gave up his throne and went to live in exile with his two wives, Kunti and Madri. Thus, Dhritarashtra became king number 5. But while in exile, Kunti prayed to the gods for help. With their help, she was able to bear 3 children and Madri a set of twins without activating Pandu's curse. Thus were born the 5 Pandavas. The eldest, Yudhishthira, was the son of Yama, the god of Dharma and justice. Bhima, the strongest, was the son of Vayu, the god of wind. Arjuna, the most skilled, was the son of Indra, lord of heaven and the god of thunder, lightning, and rain. He's the closest thing in Hinduism to the Greek god Zeus. Finally, the twins Nakula and Sadeva were the sons of Madri and the Ashvins, who were the twin gods of medicine. Meanwhile, the blind king Dhritarashtra, together with his wife Gandhari, who always wore a blindfold in order to experience life like her husband, had 100 sons, who became known as the Kauravas, the eldest being Duryodhana. Eventually, the Pandavas return from exile and a rivalry starts up between the two sets of cousins over who should be heir to the throne, either Duryodhana, the eldest son of Dhritarashtra, or Yudhishthira, the eldest son of Pandu. The Pandavas are thought of as being the good guys and the Kauravas as the bad guys. In reality though, it's a bit more complex because as with any good literature, most of the bad characters have both flaws as well as strengths. But basically, Arjuna is usually seen as being the main protagonist of the story and Duryodhana as the main antagonist. The tension builds and eventually things culminate in a full-out war fought near a city named Kurukshetra, hence the name of the war being the Kurukshetra War. Now, at this point, let me introduce to you another main character, Krishna. Krishna was originally a neutral party in the conflict, being a noble from a totally different kingdom, the Yadava kingdom. However, he had two important connections to the Pandava side. First of all, his father was the brother of Kunti, making him first cousin to the Pandavas. In addition to this, Arjuna married his sister Subhadra, making him Arjuna's brother-in-law. But the most significant thing about Krishna is that he is actually one of the 10 avatars of God Vishnu. Most people now know the word avatars being the icon used to represent yourself in video games or online forums or as an alien hybrid, like in the movie Avatar. Both of these uses are related to the original meaning of the word, which was when God became incarnated or born into the body of human or animal. So basically, Krishna was Vishnu in the flesh. Krishna and his compatriots were originally neutral. He initially tried to broker a peace, but when that failed, he offered the following deal. One side would get his army and the other side would get him, but as a non-combatant. Arjuna got to choose first and he chose Krishna, appointing him as a charioteer. Duryodhana was pleased with this, thinking that he by far got the better side of the deal. When the battle was about to begin, Arjuna became distressed because he did not want to have to kill his close relatives. What comes next is the famous conversation between Arjuna and Krishna that forms the section of the Mahabharata known as Bhagavad Gita, one of the most revered set of verses in the Hindu religion and basically a summary of Hindus' main ideas. After the famous conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, the battle goes ahead and lasts for 18 days. One of the main people that Arjuna has to fight against is a man named Karna, who is a close ally with Duryodhana. But there's a major plot twist. The Pandavas don't know it, but Karna is actually their brother. The Mahabharatas includes Karna's backstory, where we find out that Kunti had a child by Surya, the god of the sun, before he was or she was married to Pandu. But she gives him up and he is raised by adopted parents in the court of Dhritarashtra. At the end of the story, the Pandavas end up victorious. Karna, Duryodhana, and all the Kauravas except one die in the battle. The eldest of Pandava, Yudhishthira, is crowned king and goes on to have a nice long reign. Later in life, he abdicates and passes the throne to Arjuna's grandson, Parikshit. And then the line of the Kuru kings continues through him.
Hi, I'm Ferdowsia Salahuddin Anjawang and I will be discussing to you about Panchatantra by Vishnu Sharma. So what is Panchatantra? Panchatantra is perhaps the oldest collection of Indian fables still surviving. It is written around 200 BC by the great Hindu scholar Pandit Vishnu Sharma. Panchatantra means 5 books. It is Nitisashtra, which means Book of Wise Conduct in Life. The book is written in the form of simple stories, and each story has a moral and philosophical theme which has stood the test of time in modern age and atomic fear and madness. It guides us to attain success success in life by understanding human nature. So I have prepared here two stories of Panchatantra by our famous author Vishnu Sharma. The first is The Monkey and the Crocodile. Once upon a time, there lived a monkey on a berry tree, which is near to a bank of the river in the forest. In the river, one crocodile was living with his wife. One day, the crocodile came out of the water to sleep around the tree. Monkey offered the berries to that crocodile as he loved them. Kind-hearted Monkey offered the berries to the crocodile's wife too. She also liked the berries, but at the same time, she was jealous of their friendship. So, she asked her husband to get the heart of the monkey. He did not want to do it, but he had no choice. Crocodile invited the monkey to his home. Monkey also agreed. As the monkey did not know how to swim, the crocodile took him on his back. Crocodile, while talking, had blurted out the real reason for taking the monkey to their home. The clever monkey said that he left his heart on the tree. The crocodile believed and took the monkey back to the river, and thus the monkey escaped. So the moral story of the lesson is to choose your friends wisely and always have presence of mind. And for the next story, we have the elephant and the mice story. Once upon a time, in a village post an earthquake which is abandoned by its people after it's shattered. The mice from the same village decided to stay back there only. On the outskirts, there was a pond. Many elephants daily come to the pond to drink water. But the village was on the way to that pond. While walking, elephants trampled the mice. So, the king of the mice requested the elephant to change the route and will definitely return the favor. Elephants laughed at the mice what favor they can do, but they promised that they will change the route. After a few days, elephants got trapped in a net set up by the hunters. One elephant luckily was not got trapped and informed the same to the king of the mice. All mice went to the place and started nibbling the nets and freed all the elephants. The king of elephants thanked the mice. So the moral of the story is a friend in need is a friend indeed. So those two stories tells us lots of realizations and lessons in life, which is the main theme of Vishnu Sharma's story, which is Panchatantra. So that would be all for the Panchatantra, and I'll give the floor to the next reporter. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. As we all know, Hindu literature is one of the great literature in our history. So now, let me introduce myself. I am Mark Josel Madera, and I am one of the reporter and tasked to share to you the part of this Hindu literature, which is the Bhagavad Gita and Abhilasha. So first, without further ado, let's start. So now, Bhagavad Gita by Vyasa. Before we talk about the poem or the story, the Bhagavad Gita, let's talk about the author, which is Vyasa. So Vyasa, Krishna Vyapayana, better known as Vyasa, the author, or Vedavyas, is a central and revered sage portrayed in most Hindu traditions. He is traditionally regarded as the author of the Hindu epic the Mahabharata. He is also regarded by the Hindu tradition as the compiler of the number of works. Now let's talk about this Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, the son of God. So an episode recorded in the great Sanskrit poem of the Hindus, the Mahabharata. It occupies chapters 23 to 40 of the book 6 of the Mahabharata and is composed in the form of a dialogue between the prince Arjuna and Krishna, an avatar or incarnation of the god Vishnu. Composed perhaps in the 1st and 2nd century CE, it is commonly known as Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches us that one kills only the body, so the soul is immortal. At death, the soul is reborn in another body, or for those who have fully grasped the true teaching, it achieves the release, or what they call in Hindu moksha, or extinction, or nirvana, that is freedom from the wheel of rebirth. So this Bhagavad Gita has always been cherished by many Hindus for its spiritual guidance. It was an important text of Mahatma Gandhi, and this Mahatma Gandhi wrote a commentary on it. So that's it for the Bhagavad Gita. Now let's talk about the Abhilasha by Rabindranath Tagore. First, as we talk about this part of literature, the Abhilasha, let's talk first this author of the poet Rabindranath Tagore. So Rabindranath Tagore was a Bengali polymath who worked as a poet, writer, playwright, composer, philosopher, and social reformer, and also a painter. He reshaped Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art with contextual modernism in the late 19th century and 20th century. So Rabindranath Tagore was born on the 7th of May, 1861, and died on the 7th August, or the August 7th, 1941. And Rabindranath Tagore is also known, or popularly known as Gurudev. Now, Tagore's first poem is entitled Abhilasha. Now, Abhilasha in English, desire. So, it is published anonymously in the journal of Tattva Bodhi Patrika. So, Tattva Bodhi, which means truth and searching, and the Patrika, the newspaper, was established by Maharshi Devendranath Tagore and 16th day in August 1843 as a journal of the Hini Sabha, and continued publications until 883. It was published from Kolkata, India. And that's it for my part. Thank you for listening.
So now let's proceed to Kalidasa's plays and poems. First, who is Kalidasa? Kalidasa was a classical Sanskrit author who is often considered ancient greatest poet and playwright. His plays and poetry are primarily based on their gods, which named Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas. His surviving verse consists of 3 plays, 2 epic poems, and 2 shorter poems or minor poems. So now, let's go to the epic poems of Kalidasa, which entitled Kumarasambhava and the Raghuvamsa. First, what is Kumarasambhava? It describes the birth and adolescence of the goddess Parvati, her marriage to Shiva, and the subsequent birth of their son Kumara. Kumara meaning Kartikeya and Sambhava meaning possibility of an event taking place in this context, a birth. Raghuvamsa is an epic poem about the kings of the Raghu dynasty. So now let's proceed to the minor poems, which entitled Tusamara and the Meghaduta. What is Tusamara? Tusamara describes the 6 seasons, narrating the experiences of 2 lovers in each of the seasons. Kalidasa also created his own genre of poetry with Meghaduta, which is also his minor poems. It is the story of a yaksa trying to send a message to his lover through a cloud. Kalidasa sent this poem to the Madhakranta meter, which is known for its lyrical sweetness. It is one of Kalidasa's most popular poems, and numerous commentaries of his works has been written. Now let's proceed to his plays. He wrote 3 plays, which entitled the Abhijnana Sakuntalam, the Malavikagnimithram, and the Vikramorvashyam. So first, let's go to Abhijnana Sakuntalam. It is generally regarded as his masterpiece. It was among to be the first Sanskrit works to be translated in English and also in any other language. It's the story of King Dushyanta, who, while on the hunting trip, meets Sakuntala, the adopted daughter of the sage Kano and the real daughter of Vishwamitra and Menaka, and marries her. Vikramorvashyam, or the Urvasi I by Alvor, tells the story of King Pururavas and celestial nymph Urvasi, who fall in love. As an immortal, she has to return to the heaven, where an unfortunate accident causes her to return to earth as a mortal, with a curse that she will die the moment her lover lays his eyes on the child which she will be bear. After a series of mishaps, including Urvasi's temporary transformation into vine, the curse is lifted and the lovers are allowed to remain together on the earth. So his last play is the Malavikagnimithram. It tells the story of King Agnimitra, who falls in love with a picture of an exiled servant girl named Malavika. When the queen discovers her husband's passion for this girl, she becomes infuriated and has Malavika imprisoned. But as fate would have it, Malavika is in fact a true-born princess, thus legitimizing the affair. And that would be all. Thank you very much.